Alright, so we're going to be installing a K&N short rim intake on a 02 Acura RSX. Instructions are right here, but we probably won't need those. Here's the kit. It's a pretty simple kit. You got your tubing and your clamps, and then your little hoses in there, and then this collar here, and that's about it. Gay stickers. So I'm going to remove the positive terminal on the battery. It's always a good idea to do that. Especially when you're inside an attached garage where sparks are flying and it's never good. So just as a safety precaution, we're going to remove this bolt. So first I'm going to remove the engine cover, two 10mm bolts. And then I'm just going to put these back in there so I don't lose them. Second step is to remove this clamp and just kind of put it aside. Third step is to grab your pliers and just squeeze this clamp right here. But you want to remove this while this is clamped. I'm going to do it. So just like that, you basically really just want to twist it back and forth until it comes out. It's really not too bad once you actually have two hands to designate to it. So that's out. Next step is to loosen the two hose clamps. Really don't have to crank on it or loosen it too much, as long as it's got some slack and it easily moves. See how it just kind of moves. And then the other one is right here. And I've already loosened this one. So it's nice and loose. Okay, next we want to grab this hose since it's already loose, and we want to pull it out from the airbox so it's not connected to the airbox anymore. So like so. It's no longer attached to the airbox. Next up, we're going to loosen the 5 bolts from the airbox with our 8mm socket and ratchet. I have put an extension on there, just makes it easier. And remember, when you're taking these, when you're loosening these, they don't actually come out all the way. So that's as far out as it's gonna go. It's basically designed so you don't lose them, I'm guessing. So one step I forgot was to remove this hose right here, but I've actually broken the housing off of the airbox.
Oh, nice.
So
it's not that bad. At least the hose didn't break, right?
Yeah. So you want to
can still pull that housing out, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But this part we don't need anymore. I mean, it would have been nice to save this, you know, in case I sell the car, in case I don't like the intake and it's too loud or whatever, but in any case, it's broken, and so we're going to remove this. So there's your stock airbox. I think I changed this, I don't know, 10,000 miles ago. It's actually not that dirty. So next step, you want to remove this wire right here, this harness, off from the original tubing, because at this point we want to pull this right off of the throttle body. So you gotta just twist it a little bit, it's not too bad. One thing is, don't forget this side hose, which I'm going to remove right now. Alright, so this thing came off with a little bit of a fight. The actual housing got kind of left behind on with it, so I'm going to take two needle nose pliers and just pull this thing right out. Alright, so we get this thing out. That one was a little snug too, but just be careful not to squeeze too hard on the hoses. You can see I left a little bit of a hole there, but I might be able to go a little bit further back on it. There should be a little bit of play there, room to play. So next we want to remove the 3 bolts and 2 bolts and nut from the lower air cleaner assembly, which is this right here, and this right here. Okay, so I have the bolts loosened, and then this should just come basically straight up. Oh, actually I missed something. This right here, I have to disconnect this thing. Looks like there's a bolt up right here. Alright, so I got this bolt, the air inlet bolt, removed. So now this should come out a little bit easier. Alright, so next step is you want to locate this silicone, they call it a silicone hose. So you want to locate this sucker right here, and a clamp, and you want to slide that right over the throttle body. Alright, so our new hose is clamped on to the throttle body. So next up, they give you this grommet that you just have to basically put it inside the hole here. Just kind of work it in. It's got some grooves on the sides, so it just fits in snugly there. Alright, so that's in there. Good. Nice and tight and sealed. Alright, so the next step is to grab your intake tube. Lost for words there for a second. And you want to slide it this way, with this way facing, going into the throttle body. You want to slide that in, and you want to make sure that the bracket hole right here lines up with the original mounting bolt for the original airbox. So I'll put that in now. And I forgot to mention, before you slide that on, you want to make sure that you have your second clamp. You slide a second clamp on there, just make sure it's loose, so you have something to tighten it onto. So this is also a good time, before you put the actual tubing in, to slide your the smaller hose clamp on to the air bypass control hose, and then we can proceed. Alright, so we've got our intake tube in, and then the next step, so we have our mounting bracket lined up pretty close to the hole. I'll probably have to, move it a little bit to get the bolt in, but I'll just hold it down to get it so it goes in straight. But the next step is to get this bolt in. I believe there's a washer that goes with it, and secure that tightly before you secure any of the clamps. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so our mounting bracket is secured tightly. And that was a 10mm socket that I used. I didn't crank on it like extremely hard, but obviously get it so it's snug. And the next step is to tighten the throttle body clamp with a flathead screwdriver. So the next step is to tighten up the air bypass clamp, as seen right here. And when you're cranking these things down, obviously this may not be obvious to everybody, but obviously make sure that your clamp is clamping onto the actual metal and it's not way back here just squeezing the tube. Okay, next step is to push the air temperature sensor, which is this right here, back into the grommet here that you put in earlier. So next step is to reclamp this hose right here using the OEM clamp. Okay, next step, we install the filter onto the end of the tube with the clamp provided. Okay, next step is to install, there's a rubber grommet included in the kit that you want to place right on this thing here, which is the engine cover. I'm not quite sure what this thing is. I think it might be some kind of like anti-rattle, but I could be just talking out of my rear end. But that's my educated guess anyway. But the filter's on there with the clamp. You can either use, with these two, use flathead screwdriver. With this one I actually used an 8mm, one of these guys right here. So I didn't want to use an actual ratchet because I didn't want to over tighten it. Sometimes if you crank on these clamps too hard, you can break them. Or the cheap ones, it's what happens more often with the cheaper ones. But these seem to be, pretty high quality. So the last step is to reinstall the engine cover with our rubber boot that we put on there. Alright, so I figured out the purpose of this rubber boot. It's basically just to protect, in case that's hitting, some of the silicone, so it doesn't stab that. So I don't think it's any kind of like anti-rattle. It's just to protect that silicone piece right there. So our next step, don't forget about the battery. We'll reconnect the battery. And you want to start it up, and obviously you want to make sure like all the clamp points, nothing's leaking, no air, no hissing or vacuum leaks or anything like that. or you know, any kind of rattles or any weird noises. So just keep an eye out for that before you go crazy hauling ass. But other than that, you're good to go for a test drive. So everything seems to be pretty tight. I don't feel any leaks. Most of the air seems to sound like it's coming from the actual filter, so that's a good thing. So I think we're good to go. Ready to take it for a spin.